but yeah, so the island, it's been used as a place where women in particular have been banished. So the reason I started looking at this island was because Emperor Augustus, he was the emperor of Rome. He sent his only daughter Julia to this island because, and it's sort of one of those things that where history and fact probably isn't quite matched up. But the story is that he sent her there because she'd been too promiscuous. So she'd been kind of, apparently then kind of partying and sleeping around and being a bit too slutty around town in Rome. And it didn't really fit his agenda because when he came into power, he wanted things to be, he was quite conservative. He wanted things to be like they used to be. So he was kind of bringing in these new measures, and his daughter was really undermining his politics. That's the sort of the story, the history. History is what around what happened to her. So he banished her to the island, and that's what interested me in the place to begin with. Sort of how what women are allowed to do. How our sexualities are owned by, well, in her case, her father, and the whole history around that. So I really wanted to go and see where she'd lived, and to see if there was any sort of. Obviously, this is like before Christ, or you're not supposed to say that anymore. But so this is like over 2,000 years ago. So it's like there's like very little traces of this around. But I kind of hope that there'd be something there that would kind of give me something to write about or to make work about. So I was kind of interested in going and sort of seeing what was there.
When you mentioned the island, that it was it just one person that was banished to this place, or did it become like a destination, a banishment spot for daughters?
Exactly. No, it's definitely become a destination. Like several other Roman emperors banished their daughters to this island, but none of them had the reason of her being promiscuous. Other than Julia, so that's why I kind of thought that this is because my writing is about sort of sex and female sexuality. I just felt like that was the obviously the one that made sense for me to kind of think about. But there isn't really much known about her. There are some books published on her life, but none of them really focus on this particular part of her. Well, none of them really focus on her sexuality, and it's kind of impossible for me to really find anything out because it's such a long time ago. But I think that what I'm doing is I'm just taking this like tiny fragment of a clue and sort of writing about it in a way that brings it into contemporary life, and almost using that as just as a sort of symbol. Or as an example more of how things can be, or how things have been. How her sexuality was treated through her, through how her father kind of used her sexuality against her and her lust, perhaps, her desire, and how the space for that desire to exist is kind of really squeezed and pushed, and not really, not the space for her to do what she wanted to do is controlled by the government and by her father, which is the same, in this case, the same thing. But
that's unfortunate.
Pretty much, because she seemed like quite from what I can tell about her, she seemed like quite a sort of joyful character who really did like her social life and her her friends, her poetry, and her sort of indulging herself. And I suppose I can relate to that, which again is why I felt like
it's also interesting how all these sort of themes are of like promiscuity being inappropriate and stuff, because I mean, we definitely think of like Romans, or at least in this puritanical country, like as this like what's it called? Kind of permissive by comparison, pagan even, you know what I mean? Like in terms
like
of
a bit
like
hedonistic sort of.
Yeah, hedonistic. That's sort of like the perception that we have of that time period, especially if you watch like things like Sam Raimi's TV show. I forget what it was. Spartacus and all of that, like where it's just like an excuse to have like live orgies, like beautiful people having orgies on camera. But so it's interesting that like there's still that distinction. And the other thing that was funny, I don't know if remember the Bush daughters, but I thought they were parallel. But then you said that she seemed joyful, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that's fair to Julia.